Hey, welcome today. We've got a really exciting conversation ahead of us around the Ethos statements that have been made by the Ethos group over the last year on behalf of our Fresh Hope movement. And I'm Josh, and this is Ryan from Campbelltown, Edwina from ACOM, and Stephen from the Chapel Sydney. We're actually in the chapel's building today, the new building at Burwood Church of Christ, or has been Burwood Church of Christ. It's really great to be here in the building with you guys today. And over this last year, there have been 10 people in the team who've come together to discern what makes our movement unique and to try and define that a bit more. And these three lovely panelists are part of that group and will represent that today. And we just wanted to get to hear a little bit from you guys around what that process has been like and what has really come out of that for you guys. So we're excited to hear from you today. So I want to start off by just asking, at the beginning of this year, not that long ago, but it feels like a lifetime ago probably, Daz sent out an email and he invited you guys to be part of this Ethos group process. When you heard that, what did you think Ethos meant, and what has it meant for you over this time? So I was wondering, Stephen, would you mind just sharing around that? What is this Ethos thing?
Yeah, I think ethos, firstly, is a very difficult word to define, but what we've found over the years, to put it simply, ethos is just who you are. And that's a very loaded question, but put it simply, it's just who we are as a movement, and that's what we've tried to capture in this document.
Yeah, our spirits and our attitude, and who we are and who we want to be, really.
And I think clarification on who we're not as well. So trying to help us understand who we are, and so therefore who will we not going forward.
Yeah, for sure. Those are important things. I'm wondering, when you first got asked, why did you want to be part of this experience? I'm wondering, Edwina, I know that might not have been...
Well, I didn't want to be part of the experience, was my first response. Sitting around all year talking about an abstract concept like ethos was not my idea of fun, but I knew it would be valuable. I was honoured to be asked, and I'd got to know Daz really well, and so I was excited with this new season under new leadership to be part of the conversation which we're starting.
Yeah, beautiful. What about for you, Stephen? Why did you want to be part of this?
I think understanding what the document, and I guess the idea of the document behind it, to know who we are, it just sounded really important. And to be asked to come alongside to be a part of that process, I was quite honoured, especially being quite new to the movement, and also gave me an opportunity to learn more about who we are as a movement as well.
And likewise for me, I think I felt honoured to be a part of the room, but I could also see the benefit that this would bring from my local church in having clarity about who we are as a movement and what that would mean for us at the local level. And so I was excited to be a part of that.
Yeah, beautiful. That's great. So invite us into, for a second, none of us have really seen what this looked like. I assume it looked like a few different things over this year because of lockdown. We were on Zoom, you were in person a few times. What did this process look like of going on this journey of figuring out these statements about who we are? What did that process look like? Edwina, what did that look like?
Well, lots of talking, but getting to know each other first before we started. You know, there were lots of whiteboards and lots of words on whiteboards, but to start with, it was just to get to know one another and get to know each other's story. As Stephen said, some of us are new. I've been around for 35 years. I've been in the movement, and so it was getting to know each other, but also sharing our experience. We'd all had various positive and negative experiences in the movement over different seasons and time, and so it was really important to actually articulate that. It's not a cliche, but it was a safe place for us to all talk about that, and so that was really a good place to start, even to articulate who we were as a representative of the movement to start with. So it was just an important place to start.
Yeah, beautiful. What were some challenges that you guys faced along the way? I imagine doing this over Zoom and also just trying to articulate something quite abstract, but together with a lot of people would have presented some challenges together. What did that look like, Stephen, as you guys were working together? Any challenges?
Yeah, well, we brought, Daz brought a representation of our movement to the table 10 people from very different settings. And using certain terminology it sounds very different in different contexts. And so that was probably one of the first challenges. We would all use the same word, like a word like family. And then we'd find out that family meant 10 different things to 10 different people. And so trying to get on the same page and understanding some of the vocab around what was important to us was very difficult at the beginning.
What about Ryan? Did you anticipate any challenges that came up?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges was narrowing things down. I think we could have easily written a novel
Yes.
with all the different ideas that we had. And so it was challenging trying to distill it down. And I think that was the process, distilling down to a few small things, because there was plenty of things that we left off, but we had to find what were the most important parts of who we were.
Yeah.
That was a challenge.
Yeah, totally. So amidst the challenges, were there some gifts or beautiful things that came out of this process, even just for you personally? What about you, Ryan?
For me, there was a greater sense of feeling connected to the other people in the room, particularly because I didn't know everybody that was turning up. I didn't know their stories. And the more that we were nodding heads in agreement about what we were about, the more that I felt that I was part of something with those people. And so the fruit for me was a real sense of unity with other people in our movement.
That's cool. What about for you, Stephen? Any fruit?
Yeah, I think a lot of learning. As Ryan said, not everyone in the room knew each other, and everyone had different exposure and experience with Churches of Christ. But putting the group together and being able to learn from each other and each other's experience was personally very edifying. It was really a joy to just be in the room with just a great bunch of people. And a lot of times we may have strayed from the topic just because. That's what people do. But it was a very real conversation, wasn't
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so during this process, it sounds like you guys did a lot of digging through our history and through who we have been to figure out who we are and who we should be. Stephen, was there much there that you learnt out of that process around history and what came up for you?
Definitely. One of the things that you have to understand is for you to know who you are, you kind of have to know where you came from. And so Churches of Christ has a rich history that a lot of people have been a part of. And so to start from that point and to learn, I guess, some of what were important elements of previous generations was a really great starting point. And I guess one of the things that we learned was, as much as this is an Ethos document, it's not a historical document, but is a living document, a living conversation really, that we just got to be a part of in this generation. And so that was really exciting to be a part of.
We also had the opportunity in the second half of the year to invite some of the living legends of our movement, some great men and women into the conversation, and they're part of the living history of our movement. And so to bring them into the conversation, to show them like where we're up to, and get their input, it was it was an honour to kind of be in their presence, but it was encouraging to watch their eyes light up and to talk about their experiences and how God has always been doing the same thing through us. It's looked different and it will continue to look different, but that He is continuing the work that He started in us and through us. And so that was great to have them join the conversation, which we want to continue with everyone else now.
That's a really cool point of connection.
And Josh, just one of the things that I found really humbling about the process was I walked in expecting Daz to lead it.
Yeah.
So, Daz is the new leader with maybe a new vision. I expected him to guide the process. And I found it really humbling that he didn't. He actually took a back seat and became one of us.
Yeah.
And Kev actually led the process. And so it was just really significant for me sitting alongside Daz at the same time as underneath Daz and almost seeing the ethos at work as we did that together.
It's good.
That's really cool. Sounds like a beautiful process to be a part of. Yeah. I'd love to touch on each of the 7 areas of the DNA that you guys sort of landed on in the end. Would you guys mind just talking to that for a second? Edwina, would you mind just sharing around the 2 kingdom priorities and scriptural foundation? What do those mean?
So we unpacked what that looked like, and we could talk for hours about each one of them, but essentially the kingdom priorities was just simply that as a movement we're sent to make disciples, and that everything we are to do is to be about the kingdom. And then scriptural foundations, it's really the anchor to everything that we do. So it was a great way for us to be looking down at our text, but then looking out for how God wants us to live that text out. And so that's just two of our statements.
Beautiful. And Stephen, would you mind just sharing around the reliance on the Spirit and reflective experimentation? What do those mean to you?
Yeah, the reliance on the Spirit is this idea that we are led by the Holy Spirit, that even our thoughts, even our ideas, they have to be tested, and to know that's what God wants for us. The reflective experimentation is this idea of the adventurous spirit of pioneering. And this was something that's really exciting, I guess a little bit more personal for me as well, being a part of the pioneering process, was that in every generation, the men and women were courageous enough to do whatever it took to reach their generation. And something that we need to learn from, and we need to continue to be bold and courageous to do in our generation.
Yeah, it's cool to be part of a movement that has been so brave and has that legacy, yeah. And Ryan, would you mind just sharing around deep formation and servant-hearted? What do they mean to you?
Yeah, so the deep formation I think we're identifying was already a key characteristic of our movement. With ACOM, you can't go through Bible college without doing spiritual formation. And for us, that reflected a value on becoming Christ-like in our character. And I think it was important that we put these things down in paper so that we don't ever drift from those things that shape us to be who we are. And so it was trying to capture that so that that would remain an important value for the future. And with the servant-hearted one, I think that was both talking about who we are, but who we want to become into the future, recognizing that we're already built on a culture of wanting to serve one another, but aspirationally wanting to make sure that's who we continue to be in the future and move towards that. And that value of serving one another the way that Jesus served us.
Yeah, it's interesting how all of these link together in some way, because the final one is genuine connection, which is a tagline of We Are Family. And I feel like it sort of probably links all those things together a little bit. Could each of you maybe just share, what does that one mean to you, the We Are Family value? What do you reckon, Stephen?
Well, I think even part of the process, the idea of bouncing ideas off each other and coming together from different backgrounds and different cultures for the sake of loving each other and loving God. It did feel like a family. People come from different parts of New South Wales, and to hang out and to learn from each other and to serve each other. And that was a big family element that I got to not just say that's what we want to be about, but actually was a part of that process as well.
I think it just reiterated, as in our normal families, that we're all connected because of name and blood, but we're also different, and so we have exactly the same in our movement. And so it was just giving us permission to be ourselves, but also acknowledging the strong family connection that we have with each other. So.
And I think the word family is interesting because it's a loaded word for some people, and there are some families that are broken and disconnected, and other families that are quite strong and connected. And so I think we were really building on that second picture of wanting to be a strong, connected, healthy kind of a family. And so I think it's capturing the experience that we hope that everybody has as a part of our movement.
That's really cool. So now that those are on the table, and we've said it's just a beginning place, right? And there's a conversation to come for the rest of next year, inviting people into that process. What do you guys hope, and you've just probably been sitting for about a month now after finishing that process, what are you hoping out of that will be fruit into the future out of these statements? What do you hope this creates or births? Ryan, what do you reckon?
I think for me, I really hope that it creates a larger conversation. I feel like for us, it's a starting point, and there's probably things that are missing, but they're pieces that we can only achieve by sharing this with the wider movement. And so I guess I'm really hoping that we see version 2.0, 3.0, 4.0 out of the conversations that come next.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
I think that the work that we've already done, not only the 10 of us that started, but then our legends who added into it. It's almost like we've done the black and white outline now, and we really want everyone else to start filling in the colours by engaging in the conversation with us. As Stephen said, it's not done and printed and signed now. It's still a draft. It's still a conversation, and we want it to continue to be shaped by everybody, not just us.
I think it's an opportunity for especially people that are newer into the movement to start to get a gauge of who we are as a movement. And I think that is an exciting process. A lot of times we sign up for things that we don't know exactly what it's about, but this has been an opportunity for myself personally and for many people to really start to get a real understanding of, well, who are we as a movement? We're not just individual silo churches, but we are a movement of churches. As Ryan said, we want to encourage everyone to engage in greater conversation. And we'd love for this conversation just to be widened to our whole movement of churches.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for the work that you've put into this, along with the rest of the team over the last year. And yeah, thank you for the foundation you've set for a great conversation into the next year or so. Really excited for what's to come. Yeah.